Thank you. This afternoon, perhaps, I want to talk about stories, and I might even tell a couple of stories, as Blake has alluded to. That is kind of my job. Stories are a kind of magic. They're the science that the brain does naturally. As we piece together our past and we imagine our future, it's stories that we use to understand who we have been, who we can be, and who we are now. Jonathan Haidt put it well when he said, "The human mind is a story processor, not a logic processor." Let me tell you a story. I'm 3 years old, and I live in a tiny village in the west of Ireland. I'm on my tricycle, and I'm running away from home. Nobody understands me. Nobody sees me. A tiny, curly-haired hero on the foothills of a voyage to discover who he's really meant to be until he gets scared and goes back home. So life can be tough when you're 3. But our lives are like a collection of short stories. And as we piece them together, I use a couple of key questions when I approach a story in my work. And those are, what is the writer doing with this story? And what kind of story is it? What was I doing with the first story? Well, I was setting the scene, I suppose. So let's go back to the boy. I'm 5 years old, and I'm flying across the rooftops of Bayswater in London, where I now live as of last week. There's other children around. I don't know them. I think my sister is up ahead. I'm free. There are rooftops. There's adventure. It's a city I don't understand, but I'm there. And my mother is here somewhere, but I know my father isn't. I'm the man of the house now. What kind of story is the boy in? Be a rags to riches story? He's a long way from riches in what we would call now temporary accommodation. Maybe it's a coming-of-age narrative, but he's 5. He's a little young for that. This boy, I think, is in a kind of a Western. And I know that sounds odd, so bear with me. You see, Westerns always happen on the frontier, in that space between the wilderness and civilization. They're about the hope for something resolved, their hope for order in a world of chaos. And childhood is always on the frontier. Children need the world to make sense. But every time they think they have a handle on it, something comes along, a bigger kid, an adult, an experience, and it tells them that they're wrong. The world can be a daunting place. I'm 6 years old, and I'm in the playground of another new school. And I'm standing in a little alleyway between 2 tall buildings, and I'm scared. I don't know anyone. I don't know what to do. So I call upon, to find strength, I call upon the cartoon that I watch on a Saturday morning at home, the Thundercats, and I call upon the power of 10 tigers. And I walk out into the open space with my duffel coat as a cloak. What kind of story is this? Kind of an urban mythology, maybe a superhero narrative. Superhero stories are about vulnerability, the need to find power, the need for moral certainty. And what's the writer doing with this story? Well, he's probably driving at something. You see, I think from a very young age, we develop this habit of seeing ourselves as if within a story, or as a story. And it's not a habit that we let go of easily, I think. But young children in particular have a loose sense of the difference between the imagined and the real. It's why when I say to my kids, so guys, I think I might fly to work today. Has anybody seen my wings? And my 8-year-old might roll her eyes and say, oh, Dad. But my 5-year-olds, yes, there's 2 of them, they are pretty sure that I'm not going to do that at the wise old age of almost 6, but they're not certain. They live in an overlapping world of stories, all imagined to some extent, all real to some extent. But as we often ask ourselves, what is reality? Welcome to the sci-fi genre. What is real? Oh, God. Feedback is real. What is real? You've been living in a dream world, Neo. But when does it end, this blurring of the real and the imagined? I'm 9 years old, and I'm sitting in a car outside my grandmother's house. It's about 2 miles from the scene of the tricycle escape. And I'm with my father, and he asks me to reach down under the seat and pick up what's there, and I do so, and I find a 6-bullet revolver. He says to me that if anything happens to him, it's mine. And as I hold it cold in my hand, I think, this is heavy. I don't know if I can carry this. What kind of story is the boy in now? An action, perhaps? An attempt to be the hero that he sees his father as? Or perhaps he's an innocent in the early scenes of what may unfold to become a horror. And what's the story about? Is it about a gun? Well, that would place it in action or even thriller. Or maybe it's about realizing that your father might die one day, will die one day, could die one day very soon. That places us firmly in horror. Horror is rooted in the fear of death. It's the most primal genre. It's a genre we all visit from time to time. But death in stories can also be a metaphor for change, for transformation, for the end of something that perhaps we didn't want to end, like childhood. Childhood has to end. Some of us here may still be mourning its passing. But let's bring the child, as childhood does have to end, into adulthood. And let's go to a story now from a romance, though not the scene any of us aspire to be in. I'm 24 years old, and I'm sitting on a bed in Stratford-upon-Avon, where I'm achieving a career ambition as an assistant director at the Royal Shakespeare Company. Across from me on the bed sits my fiancée with her engagement ring in her hand, and she says, "I can't do this anymore." I say, "This?" She says, "Us." And in the silence afterwards, as I see fully formed futures melt before my eyes, homes that will now not be nested, children that will now not be born, holidays and happinesses that will now not materialize, I think in a moment of rare clarity, well, it was just an idea. And that's what the future is, isn't it? An idea, a story. If that was a romantic comedy, that scene would come about 3/4 of the way into the movie, and of course they would get back together at the end, probably in the pouring rain. But it's not that kind of story. Perhaps it's memoir. Perhaps it's all memoir. I want to finish today with this genre, memoir. It's a fascinating genre. Memoir, ironically, is not about the past. Memoir uses the past in order to figure out who you are now. So who am I now? I'm 43 years old. I'm a married father to 3 daughters. And for 20 years, I mostly directed stage plays. Perhaps I needed to sit outside of the story rather than be in it, but it's a naive ambition. There's nothing outside of the story. In my 20s, someone once said to me that at that time, I only told stories about how I was the best. Perhaps that's why she didn't marry me. But those stories, they were my protection. They were my shield. They were my duffel coat cloak. But the beauty of memoir, and we're all in the business of memoir, we're all in the business of figuring out who we are from who we have been. The beauty of memoir is that we have a lot of agency. We can choose how to tell our stories. We can choose what they're about. We can choose what stories to bring forward and keep telling and give space to. And we can choose what stories to leave behind, the ones that don't serve us anymore, the ones that might be holding us back. I hope that now I tell a broader range of stories in my own life. I hope that I can be weak as well as strong, that I can have failed as well as succeeded, that I can be lost as well as found. I like the words that Walt Whitman wrote, and I want you to hear them as well. He wrote, "I am large, I contain multitudes, and so do we all." So I want to leave you with these questions from my world, from my work. And they are, what kinds of stories do I tell about myself to other people and to myself? What am I doing with those stories? And what are those stories doing with me? Thank you.